Welcome, lambs. Welcome to your Florida Man Friday. And boy, have I got a Florida Man Friday for you. This is a case of a man who committed fraud and who tried to avoid getting caught by making moves that you'll only see on Looney Tunes and thinking that it's going to work. This is the case of Alexander Leszczynski of North Redington Beach, Florida. Before we begin, if you're new here, my name is Kai, and this is Love and Murder. This is a segment of Love and Murder where I rant about criminals doing dumb criminal things. Also, I want to remind you that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs in Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder. So if you want to be a sponsor of Love and Murder and or just get bonus stuff, then head on over to patreon.com/Love and Murder and become an exclusive lamb. Let's get into this Florida Man Friday. Alexander Leszczynski, who is 25 years old and like I said is of North Redington Beach, Florida, started his criminal career with an application for the Payroll Protection Plan. You remember those back in the COVID times? It was a financial relief package provided for businesses who were affected by COVID-19. So Alex, who didn't have any businesses, used fake charities like one that he called, quote, Love and Bliss, to fraudulently get about $195,910 in the COVID business release funds. On top of that, he was engaged in a check kidding scheme, which I don't know what that means. Does anybody know what check kidding is? To deposit $2.7 million of worthless checks into his fake Love and Bliss business. And since this is not live and y'all couldn't have answered me as to what check kidding is, I looked it up, which it's basically check fraud. It's just a different way of saying check fraud. So you take advantage of the float. You know, when you write a check, you put a check in, it doesn't immediately come back and say, hey, he does have money, he or she does have money. So they use that float time. So the checks are then used as an unauthorized form of credit. So that's check kidding, just basically check fraud. I just didn't know what it was. And he did that with the cajones for $2.7 million. Ugh. I would be sweating every time I took out a pen. I don't know how he just did that with all the confidence in the world. Then, using fake religious organizations, Alex managed to apply for about $1.3 million in PPP loans. But he didn't stop there. He then laundered the money through multiple accounts to try and hide it from authorities. You thought you were going to hide $1.3 million. Actually, more than that, because he has 2.7, 1.3, and then the 100. You thought you were going to hide millions of dollars from the government? Millions. I could see 500 maybe, but millions? Then in October 2020, he filed a fraudulent warranty deed for a transfer of a property. Then the property's owners sued him to correct the deed. In response, he then sent them a series of harassing letters, emails, and faxes. People still fax? And he sent them faxes? You know how easily emails and faxes... Oh my God. Okay, this dude is just leaving trails. So then on January 11th, 2022, he wired $337,000 in an attempt to buy gold, but then the government seized the funds. Guess that trying to hide $1.3 million plus from the government didn't work well for you, huh? So then when they seized the $337,000 from his account, he then started to panic and thought he was smarter than a fifth grader. He then handed the company a letter from President Donald Trump saying that he was pardoned and his money was no longer frozen. Quote, after Leszczynski became aware of the seizure, he attempted to have goldsilver.com release the funds by providing them with a forged presidential pardon purportedly signed by President Donald Trump. The problem with this is Biden had been president for an entire year already. Trump was no longer president. So how could you have gotten a presidential pardon? Smarter than a fifth grader, he was trying to be. What an idiot. Then in April 2022, he was charged with deed fraud because of that thing he did back in October 2020. Then, while he was in jail for that at the Pinellas County Jail, he came up with a amazingly brilliant plan. A plan that couldn't possibly fail. He decided to hire a hitman to kill the property owners who had sued him. His reasoning behind this was that if the victims were no longer alive, well, the charges against him would just be dropped, right? I mean, that's how it works, right? So he told someone, because, he listens to Love and Murder, and we here at Love and Murder always say, if you're going to commit a crime, tell everybody you know and everybody you don't. Write it down, put a sign, have as much evidence on and off your person as possible. So he went and told someone that he had $45,000 at his house that no one could possibly find, and he could use this to pay a hitman. Little did his dumbass know that he was talking to a snitch. And that snitch, let's use his given government name. The confidential informant gave him the contact information to a hitman, which we here at LAM could already deduce is an undercover agent. Alex then gave the hitman the personal details of the two property owners who had so wronged him, even though he was the one who wronged them, including their names, addresses, physical descriptions, and even some information of them to find pictures online. What he told his hitman was that this was for college tuition money. I know it didn't connect in your brain cells as well. I still can't connect it, but that's what he said. He thought this was a good cover story. Yeah, this hitman will buy it. Okay. He also maintained, yes, repeatedly, that he wanted the homeowners dead. He then negotiated a price of $30,000 for their murders and walked away feeling accomplished. Cause I thought you were going to ask for 45 and I got you down to 30. I am so smart. I am the boss. This is going to work because everything else I've done has worked. Yeah. Of course, that lasted all of 3 seconds before he was charged with murder for hire and obstruction of justice. So he had previously been sentenced to more than 17 years behind bars for his fraud activities back in November 2022. And for this murder for hire plot, on November 13th, 2023, he received another 17 years and 6 months, and these sentences are to be served consecutively. So now he has a total of more than 35 years in prison. Interestingly enough, you would think he would have learned his lesson by now because nothing he's doing is going right, but no, that didn't stop him being behind bars, getting another sentence, being behind bars for 35 years now instead of 17. Nope, none of this stopped him. He continued to write letters from prison, trying to get people and threatening people to come forward and take responsibility for his crimes. Letters that the guards read before they leave the jail. That's what he's doing. And that is the case of Alexander Leszczynski, a Florida man who Florida manned them all. What did you think about that? This case was just Looney Tunes, straight out of Hanna-Barbera. I'm telling you, I couldn't even make this one up. And I don't even have a poll for it. I just don't. There's nothing to ask. There's nothing to add. It just keeps going. I just kind of want to keep following it to see what he keeps doing. I just want to see what he's going to do next. I can't get enough. I can't get enough. So anyways, what we're going to do, speaking of polls, is to go through last week's comments and polls. So last week's Florida Man Friday was the girlfriend who tried to poison her boyfriend with tea, and then the daycare found the gun in the toddler's lunchbox. And also I did a list of the top 10 Florida cities, the top 10 most dangerous Florida cities. And the poll that I had out was, do you agree with this top 10 list? And the answers were yes, no, or I think you missed a city. Well, 75% of y'all said you did agree with the top 10 list, while 25% of y'all said, I think you missed a city. So there was nobody who didn't agree with it. There was just people who said you missed some. So if you could tell me in the comments below for this one, tell me in the comments below the cities you think I missed. I will then research them and add them to the next Florida Man Friday. So let me know the cities you think I missed. Then I also did a rant on CPS based on one of my listeners, Henna Page. Hi, Henna. Based on what she said. And so I read her comments and I did a rant on that. And Henna says, I loved your rant. I knew you were going to be livid. Had the same exact reaction you had while talking to my cousin. Christina Bobo commented and said, I fell out when the girlfriend said the bleach was sugar. I used to use sugar cubes, but never once have any of them smelled like bleach. I believe the mom made an honest mistake, but due to the nature of the mistake, she should have received some kind of penalty, maybe gun safety training, or even if the local PD provided her with a suitable carrying case. Her forgetfulness with such a violent weapon put an entire community at risk and could have been catastrophic. Lastly, I agree wholeheartedly with today's rant. I don't see how anyone cannot report abuse when they see or hear it. We must be vigilant and alert authorities until action is taken. And also, instead of wasting money housing abusers to keep them comfortable enough to not abuse their families, maybe throw them in jail where they belong, comfortable and distant enough to not abuse their families. The system is backward as F. I completely agree. Distant enough to not abuse their families, not comfortable enough to not, hopefully, we hope, maybe this will help, not abuse their family. And then with the top 10 list, Susan M. Frank said, I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm still listening to late 2023. Damn, Susan, you went back and you really binging. I am so thankful, though. Thank you so much for binging. I'm not going to stop you. We'll hear from you when you get caught up. And that is all the comments that I have for you. Now, if you want your comment read on air, then go ahead and comment below right now on this Florida Man Friday and how crazy it was. I know you couldn't have thought this up in your wildest dreams. You couldn't have. So that's all I have for you today. I'll see you in the next rant. Bye. Thanks for listening, and before you go, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share with your friends. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell.